So can we stop pretending that the Zodiac killer was some mastermind and that's why he never got caught? He never got caught because the cops were racist.
Yeah. In fact, that's the case for a lot of the more modern serial killers from this country. Jeffrey Dahmer was famously an idiot who managed to allow an entire community to know he was preying on them. But it didn't matter, because since his entire victim pool was queer black and brown boys and men, the cops didn't care. There's no reason to look for him. Women who lived in the same building as him, they saw he'd go into his apartment with a man who would never come out. Most times they'd hear screams coming from his apartment. He was never trying to actually cover up his tracks. The only people he never harmed in that community were the women, which is why they all had to band together and do something about him themselves. It took 13 years to stop him and multiple arrests because they kept letting him go. They knew what he was. They didn't care. Then cue all the decades and decades of propaganda, right? To make you all think that he was some scary, evil mastermind. To make it seem like the cops were working their asses off. They didn't do shit. Another man in the middle of his killing spree, Rodney Alcala, he killed maybe like 130 young girls and women up until this point. He went on a dating game show to shop for his next victim. Alcala, like Dahmer, was also arrested multiple times and let go. Only since his victim pool was the right shade and the right gender, he landed himself on the FBI's most wanted list. I don't even think he served a year the first time that he got arrested. He just had to register as an offender. His parole officer even gave him the freedom to move between states. That was at the beginning of his spree, though. At the end of his spree is when he went on the game show, won, but luckily the lady he was supposed to go on the date with, she was alone with him for like a few minutes backstage, thought he was the creepiest thing, extremely creepy guy, and never went. Now, I know this is kind of the opposite of Dahmer's story, right? But this is kind of a glimpse into what it looks like when they are trying, right? Because Alcala's victims were still young white women and white girls. But even then, you've got the freedom with sketches, addresses, visible trails that authorities are on to do whatever you want for as long as you want. Took them 10 years to catch a guy they were already onto. Even John Wayne Gacy, I'm pretty sure all of his victims were white, though they were never all identified. It wasn't until he took a respectable teenager, right, an upper class kid, that it mattered. Someone who came from resources. Someone who actually came from parents who could actually get him put away, because that's the only time it matters. That's the only time these people will try. Serial killers are idiots. They only get away with their crimes because they actually understand who to target. There's only one thing a serial killer has to understand about this country: the intersections between race, class, and patriarchy. In the order that I have it up on screen, whatever I put up. It's not rocket science. Children understand these concepts. The idea that serial killers are hyper-intelligent is propaganda put out by the FBI, so it's less embarrassing when it inevitably comes out that they failed to catch them. When the killer was never caught, it's because the police don't be trying, in any case, but especially if the victim pool doesn't pass the paper bag test.